Yeah, one of my areas is sport, and I've been in this area for a long time now. And I was at a conference about a week ago on BMEs in sports governance, how to get more people from BME backgrounds into running sports organisations. And we're actually running a course now, a training course for BME people with that aim. And I've been going to these kinds of conferences for 30 years or more. And at every conference, someone from Sport England is there. And they're very nice, liberal, well-meaning people. They're always white. Conferences about diversity and change in sport. They're always white. And it seems to me that speaks to your problem and also the problem about education. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is best for our children or our clients? And then work towards, by whatever means you can, within the law, towards what is best for your clients. And that means positive action programs, and it means quotas, setting yourself targets, and meeting them, and asking yourself why you haven't met them. And if you really believe that that's where your organisation should go, you can do that. You can manage that change. And it is so important that our kids see black people teaching in schools. And it's so important that your organisations have black and South Asian people and people from other cultures working in those organisations for your clients. Then having no change is no option. Waiting for change is no option. And that's what I argued at this conference. Quotas. Legal quotas is the only way that we need to move forward. It worked for the Labour Party and women in the Labour Party. It can work in other places. Now in my own institution, I've been there for a very long time now, and I've seen the university change hugely. My students have changed completely from when I began. The numbers of black and South Asian students that I teach is extraordinary now, fantastic, a wonderful range of students from when I started teaching. And the staff have changed, but the staff have been on a different kind of conveyor belt, because the staff is a kind of European middle class or global middle class group of citizens who come in and get jobs in British universities. There are no British black staff, or very, very few British black staff, very few South Asian staff in university. So the staff looks different, but in a different way. And again, my interest is, what do we have to do to get more people from those kinds of backgrounds, and indeed from working class backgrounds, into teaching in universities? Because it would benefit my students if they didn't have to look at people like me, and if they saw other people who they thought, I could be that, I could do that. And it struck me as really strange how little the university and other organisations have done. I'd be interested to know how successful DMU has been on its staff side. Because the problem with arguments about meritocracy claims it doesn't see race, but what it really doesn't see is racism. That's what it misses, that's what it doesn't understand. And so, waiting for change through the usual channels is no longer an option for me, for us now. We have to make change happen. We have to commit to change, because it would be good for our kids and our students and your clients if it happened. And that's the most important thing. Otherwise, we're forced to assume, like in the case of Sport England, that there are simply no black people or no South Asian people good enough to get a job with them. And we know that's just not true. So we have to commit to other means to make change happen. And if you commit, it will happen.
And I think it's really important. What you said is really important. I have a lot of respect for it, a lot of what you said. One thing I was going to say to you is that when we have these courses to get black people into positions, there's got to be something at the end of it, because you will train as many black people as you want to be referees, to run this, to be head teachers, whatever. But if there's not a post, if there is not something at the end...
Yeah, that's why the quotas and the targets are
that is exactly it. And, we have this in every profession. And I think that, yeah, what we do is we say, well, okay, we're going to qualify this group of people. We're going to because they're not represented, so we're going to train them. Okay, then you train them. Then you have lots of people that are qualified and trained, but nowhere for them to go because the systematic institutional racism is still there, because there's still that glass ceiling that says, you know something, you will go here but no further because there's no path through it. And I think that the status quo will prevail because it's easy. You understand? Anything that shakes things up makes people feel uncomfortable. So, you know, and it's whether we want to be uncomfortable enough to see that change. Because as you said, our young people are growing up in a world that is multicultural, it's multinational, you know, it's multi-heritage. You know, you've got, you know, my grandson is dual heritage. He has his, you know, the white English side and he has the Caribbean black side, and we're bringing him up in a way that he appreciates and he values both sides. But the reality is, when he goes into a school or into a job, he is seen as a black boy. So consequently, you know, it denies that part of him that he holds dear, but it's saying that at the end of the day, he's still not worthy. And if the fact that I have to be saying that now, in 2018, right, makes me feel uneasy, because, not even uneasy, makes me feel sick, because I was saying it 25 years ago, yeah, and reports written about it 25 years ago. And the other point I was just going to say, I'll say what I say, was that I was asked to be part of a study to look at the underachievement of white working class pupils and African Caribbean pupils. I was asked to be part of this study in 2018. The amount of studies that I have seen that have been about the underachievement of black pupils, I could fill this library with them. And the fact of the matter is, we're still talking about it in 2018. And I think that's a travesty. So, you know, we're not uncomfortable enough.
Yeah, I might say something that kind of builds on that and responds a little bit to what Chris said and builds on what John said as well. Because you mentioned, as you look around the children's section earlier on in the library, you didn't see a great deal of things that suggest that people come from outside of Europe, and I think that that's really, really true and really, really important. I want to just highlight that goes far, far further than the library, because it's about who's writing it, who's being encouraged to write it, who's being picked up by those publishers and put on the shelves, who's then being stocked by the mainstream suppliers that we have to use. Those things are the kind of things that you can pick up with quotas and targets as well, because I mean, we heard about the professional development scheme earlier on, didn't we, that we publicised through here. Those kind of things need to be multiplied tenfold, 100-fold to really address that kind of thing. And it's really interesting because I've been going through those boxes of picture books, because one of the things I do quite frequently is picture book storytelling, and it is woefully inadequate how that represents the children who walk into this library. Because when I sit down with a group of children in this library from any of the local schools or just on a holiday club, I'm going to be telling stories to children from North Africa, children from Sub-Saharan Africa, from East Africa, South Asia, from Poland, from Romania. 1 out of every 50 books, that would be an optimistic estimate, is, and so what I've been actually doing is looking to see what's there, what I can get. I found a list of 25 books that are realistically available to me out of the hundreds that are available. So this is really, truly sort of society-wide issue. It is you know, I very much want this to come over as a defensive response to what you said, because I think it's really important that you looked around and see that straight away. Yeah, we've got those people who are out there, the names that are out there. Benjamin Zephaniah's on the shelves, Marilu Blackman's on the shelves, Bally Rye, who's a Leicester writer, but it's woefully inadequate. There are, 200 books on those shelves, and I bet there's less than 10 from non-European or British writers. So it's really true. It stretches much, much, much further. And there's one other little thing I want to interject on this, because this is totally anecdotal and it's not based on any kind of research, but one of the things that we ask customers when they join any of the libraries in Leicester City is, what is your preferred language for reading? And I have noticed, I've not been in libraries very long, my background was social work and I got out of that a few years ago, but since 2011 I have noticed the response that I get from people when I ask that question has started to change, and I think people are afraid to say or to not say English, and they look like I'm the Home Office trying to catch them out when I ask that question, and I think that would be a very interesting thing for some research to see what is going on there, because people just, I sit across and I struggle to join somebody up, because you know, I use Google Translate, I use whatever tools I've got, I use a very out-of-date pack that Leicester City Council produced. We now produce nothing in any other languages, it's policy. And I know that English is not the language that they're going to prefer to read in, and when I ask that question, they say English. And that terrifies me really, that is where we are in 2018. It feels like backward steps, not forward steps. So they were important points, I think, that people raised, and that's what I see here in this, you know, one of the most identified most multicultural roads in the country.
But I don't think that it's just limited to the library system.
No, absolutely.
And what I have noticed in the last year or two is that when I get referred to a consultant, I now have a form in which I need to state my nationality.
Yeah.
I have to bring my biometric card, and it makes me wonder how many people are not accessing healthcare because they're afraid.
Yes.
They see a form like that and they think, "Ooh, I need to stand under the radar."
Yeah.
I was afraid to give back the form. You know, and I have indefinite leave to remain, and I've been in this country 17 years. You know, they can't really kick me out. But it was, I think the first time I encountered this form, I was frightened, and I was thinking, well, you know, imagine how an asylum seeker would feel. You know, they would go without healthcare and risk becoming really ill or dying because they're afraid to hand back a form that says that they're an immigrant.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's across so many things. And I think the thing for us is, all we really want to know is, should I be now buying 200 books for Polish kids, because that's what they're telling me they want to read in. So we're not asking for any nefarious purposes. It's the fact that people clearly feel that could be part of the agenda. Is the thing that really alarms me in something as innocuous as a library service. And then when it gets to healthcare or education and everything else, it's just, it's not a great situation. It's really quite a backward step.